As metal twisted and time seemed to slow, Jamie could only watch, his form cloaked in an air of detached serenity, hidden amidst the chaotic dance of debris and shrapnel. This was a moment he had witnessed countless times across realms, the fragile line between life and death where destiny reshaped itself. Yet, even with all his vast power, he was bound, unable to stop the inevitable crash on that fateful night of December 12th, 2019. A terrible snowstorm blanketed the world in darkness, its howling winds masking the tragedy unfolding below. Derrick had been driving cautiously, navigating the treacherous roads, when fate intervened. A semi had jackknifed ahead of him, its hulking form sprawled across the icy highway. Derrick's attempt to stop was futile on the slick surface. Before he could react, a black Toyota Tacoma skidded from behind, its driver losing control. In a horrifying instant, Derrick's car was caught between the semi and the Tacoma, the two vehicles crushing his own a brutal, unrelenting embrace. Metal screamed, glass shattered, and life hung by a thread. Jamie was not present in the moment, yet he felt the ripples of the event as they tore through the fabric of existence. The shockwave of Derrick's impending death resonated through the primal flows of magic Jamie was attuned to. He arrived just as the Tacoma, now eerily driverless, rolled past him. Its ominous presence, imbued with a shadow of purpose, made him pause. Jamie could not interfere with its purpose. The rules of the infinite were absolute, even for him. The snow fell relentlessly, blanketing the crumpled wreckage as Derrick's life ebbed away. Jamie, unable to change the past, could only act in the moments that followed. As the shimmering essence of Derrick's soul began to rise, fragile and trembling, Jamie acted. His power surged outward, his hands, humanoid in appearance, yet imbued with an ethereal glow, reaching to grasp what he could. The essence fittingly was like smoke through his claws, pieces slipping away as memories began to shatter into forgotten fragments. He held on with a desperate love that belied his seemingly serene exterior. His consciousness expanded beyond the mortal plane, delving into the multiverse in search of sanctuary. The tapestry of infinite worlds unraveled before him, each thread a potential haven. Eriadris called to him first, a world he was deeply familiar with, a world of magic and mystery he himself helped shape. Yet, as his gaze swept across its lands, he found no vessel, no empty shell waiting to be filled. Time pressed against him like a crushing weight. Derrick's essence was fading, and Jamie felt the shards of his friend's identity slipping through the cracks of eternity. Desperation clawed at Jamie's resolve as he cast his search further. Other worlds, other realities, flickered past in an endless stream. Each one held promise, yet each one failed to provide the answer he sought. The multiverse, vast and unyielding, offered no solace. And yet, just as his hope threatened to crumble, a tug pulled him back to Eriadris. It was not reason that guided him, but instinct, a deep, unexplainable certainty that the answer lay there. He found it in perfect synchronicity, a figure whose life had just extinguished, its body an empty shell. The timing was impossibly precise, a fleeting moment where Derrick's fragmented soul could find refuge before dissolving into nothingness. Yet what lay before Jamie was no simple task. It was a desperate gambit that defied the natural order. The corridor Jamie tore open was not meant for mortal souls, nor for any form of life to traverse. It led through the hyperseed, an interstitial realm between worlds where even the essence of the divine grew tenuous. The hyperseed was chaos incarnate, a realm of raw potential and infinite danger, its existence barely understood by even the highest of cosmic entities. Ripping open a passage to Eriadris from such a place required an act of raw power and precision rarely attempted, let alone successfully executed. But Jamie was determined. With a sweep of his will, Jamie tore through the veil separating existence and non-existence, a chasm of shifting energies opening before him. The act sent shockwaves rippling across multiple realms, a violent surge of mana cascading outward as the tear stabilized. Yet the task was only half finished. From the far side, he forced the tear to remain open, a feat akin to holding apart the jaws of a ravenous beast while guiding a threadbare soul through its gullet. Derrick's essence trembled in Jamie's grasp, disintegrating further with every passing moment. The hyperseed churned around the soul like a storm, threatening to shred it into unrecognizable motes of energy. The raw mana Jamie channeled burned through him, unrefined and agonizing, but his focus never wavered. He anchored Derrick's soul to himself, shielding it from the vortex's pull as he forced the remnants forward. The act of guiding the soul through the chaotic corridor was harrowing, even for Jamie. His form flickered, light fracturing off him as the strain took hold. Sweat beaded on his brow, not from physical exertion, but from the sheer metaphysical weight of holding the hyperseed at bay, keeping its voracious chaos from consuming everything. Each step of the transfer demanded precision, an intuitive balance of power that could not falter for even the briefest moment. The portal roared around him, its edges fraying like a taut rope on the verge of snapping. For a terrifying instant, it began to collapse under its own weight, the surrounding space bending and distorting violently. Jamie snarled an incantation, his voice a low resonant growl that echoed into the void. Mana surged through him in a torrent, so vast and deep that the air itself pulsed with its presence. The corridor widened, stabilizing just enough for the soul to proceed, though the effort left fractures in the space between realms. Still, the risks mounted with every heartbeat. In those fleeting picoseconds of divine perspective, Jamie saw something else. As Derrick's fragmented soul drifted toward the vast expanse of the multiverse, he caught a glimpse of two indistinct forms. They were either infinitesimally small motes of light or impossibly vast entities whose scale defied comprehension. Their presence radiated neither malice nor benevolence, but their form shimmered with raw, unknowable power. They appeared to be locked in a silent, vehement argument, their gestures deliberate and urgent, as though debating the very nature of Derrick's essence. Though Jamie could not discern their intent, he sensed no harm in their actions. Yet even with his immense power and ancient wisdom, he could not identify what they were. Their existence lingered just beyond his understanding. A fleeting memory burned into his mind as they vanished, allowing the fragments to continue their journey. With a final surge of mana, Jamie forced the remnants of Derrick's soul into the waiting vessel. The transfer was violent, a collision of two identities, one departed, one fractured, reverberating across the realms. The strain rippled through Eriadris, shaking its foundations as the hyperseed slammed shut behind the soul, sealing the corridor with a tumultuous flare of energy. Light and shadow swirled together, coalescing into the unsteady pulse of a new life struggling to find its footing. As the portal snapped shut and the world stilled, Jamie remained kneeling. His form flickered, the light around him dimming as exhaustion seeped into his essence. He cast a weary glance at the figure. Derrick was no longer Derrick, would no longer be Derrick. What would arise was something entirely new, unformed and unknown, its potential both fragile and infinite. His gaze lingering on the lifeless body for a moment longer. The tear he had created was gone, its raw edges sealing themselves into a seamless, though scarred, expanse of existence. The cost of his intervention weighed heavily on him, yet it seemed an obvious choice. Ripping through realms, holding the tear open, guiding a deteriorating soul through the most volatile corridor known to only the highest divines. Any one of these feats could have unraveled reality itself. Together they were an act of sheer will and desperation. As the fragments of Derrick's soul settled into their new vessel, Jamie's mind lingered on the memory of the two entities. Their presence haunted him, a reminder of forces beyond even his comprehension. Had they intervened? Had their actions enabled this fragile success, Or had they merely observed, indifferent to the outcome? The questions gnawed at him, unanswerable and persistent. Nearby, Hana Saito, the Ashen Lord and Jamie's divine attendant, emerged from the veil of burning mist she favored. Her appearance was striking, her dryad form wreathed in embers and ash, the scent of charred wood and blooming life clinging to her presence. She knelt beside Jamie, her expression soft yet layered with her own weight of understanding. You always stretch the rules, Jamie. Even the primal flux bends reluctantly for you, she said, her voice carrying the warmth of rebirth and the inevitability of decay. She regarded the lifeless body that once held Derrick, her dark, ember-lit eyes holding a mix of reproach and understanding. With a delicate motion, she reached into the wreck, her hands passing through twisted metal as if it were air. 2 fingers gently closed the eyes of the now empty shell that had once housed her customer, her fellow adventurer, her friend from nights spent around a table rolling dice and weaving stories.
It was all I could do, all I could give him,
Jamie murmured, his gaze meeting hers. A flicker of vulnerability crossed his inscrutable expression, a glimmer of the immense love he carried for his friend. Hana nodded, brushing ash-dusted fingers across the snow-covered ground. Then let's hope it's enough. Her voice softened further, almost imperceptible against the crackle of lingering flames. Together they looked over the wreck one final time, their forms illuminated briefly by the distant glow of headlights refracted through the storm. The silence between them was heavy with unspoken thoughts, a shared, divine understanding of the fragility of life and the weight of their actions. Yet Hana found herself holding on to a sliver of hope. Derrick had always carried a quiet resilience, an inner light that, while dimmed, had never truly been extinguished. Perhaps in a new life, it would finally have room to flourish. Then, as though carried away by the howling winds of the snowstorm-laden night, Jamie and Hana disappeared into the darkness.
In the shadows of Eriadris, secrets lie in wait. Asamon's path is twisted, burdened by his fate.